Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Dan Patlak is former Cook County Board of Review Commissioner. He's the Wheeling Township Republican Committeeman. And we've been discussing local races a little bit. You know, we're a few weeks away, 3 weeks away from April 1st municipal elections. Talking a lot about the Wisconsin State Supreme Court race because it has national implications and national money flowing to it. Soros on the Dem side, Elon Musk and others on the Republican side. You've probably seen commercials for those state Supreme Court candidates. That's how big a race it is, no matter where you are. Certainly around things that are popular right now to view, like, say, I don't know, NCAA conference basketball tournaments. Anyway, but we should talk about local races, too, because there are opportunities to make incursions in the suburbs where so much has been lost. Also, to protect a few bright spots that exist, like, for example, in Orland Park, our friend Keith Pekow, the mayor there, is running for his third term, and he's facing a Republican Quisling, a phony Republican. That's a 60-40 Republican town. So, hey, Trump voters and people who want to be part of the common sense counter-revolution locally, will pay attention to what's going on locally.
Don't just sit on your arses.
Well, don't just cheerlead what's happening nationally. Yeah, I mean,
get out and vote.
Take your municipality back or make incursions. Take your township back or make incursions. Take a school board back or make incursions. How about after the story we provided earlier this morning with respect to Deerfield 109? I mean, these are things where a small group of people motivated can have a big impact, rather than just allowing leftist activists come and underwrite the campaigns of your local leftists and take over and destroy these institutions that actually have a material impact on your life, all these local bodies of government. For more on this, let's talk about Wheeling Township and local elections generally. Dan Patlak, certainly familiar with them. Dan, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi, Dan and Amy. Thanks a lot for having me on. I've got some good news and I got some bad news for your listeners.
I want the bad news first.
All right, bad news first.
Good news first.
Democrats have been, over the last decade, systematically taking over local governments, including township governments. 4 years ago, and I'm from Cook County in Wheeling Township. 4 years ago, they took over the Schaumburg, Northfield, and Maine Township governments. And those were townships where Republicans had held those offices going back for many decades. And then there was a seismic shift, and now Democrats are in control. The Democrats have not stopped. This year here in Cook County, they're trying to take over Wheeling Township, Elk Grove, and Barrington. But the good news is this. Typically in these local elections, only 15% of registered voters come out to vote. And what that means is that there are literally hundreds of thousands of Republicans who don't vote in municipal elections. And if we just get a fraction of those to come out who don't normally come out to vote, and they vote for our Republican candidates, we can not only hold townships that we currently control, like Wheeling Township, but we can take back those that we've lost recently, like Northfield and Schaumburg. And so my plea, my request to your audience and all the Republicans that they know is you've got to come out, because these governments, whether they're townships or school boards or villages, they're the ones that make the decisions on property taxes. And as I know you've talked about many times, Dan and Amy, Illinois has the second highest property taxes in the entire union. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that we've got people in government that want to grow government and not control it. And the way you grow it is to keep on increasing your spending, which means increasing your property taxes.
Yeah, actually the top combined state and local tax burden in the country, a Wallet Hub study just released last week, and you want to do something about it, then it necessarily means you have to address local government where most of your property taxes go. So, I mean, to these blank check units of government, particularly the schools. So, I mean, to your point, the other thing, too, to Trump voters or center-right voters, who take the position about all this early voting and mail-in ballots and stuff. We should have a national election. We should one day make it a holiday, this and that, or the silliness of the left's position about it's so difficult to register to vote. Same-day voter registration is what's needed, and this and that. So difficult to vote. Oh, we need to remove the hurdles to vote, and who understand that all to be nonsense. Well, if it's so easy to vote, and it is, then you can get your behinds out in November like you did. You can get your behinds out one more time 6 months later in April, too. So it's that easy. So pay attention and get out and do your duty because, as Dan is saying, part of the reason we lose is not so much that we're outnumbered, is that we're out-organized and out-motivated by the left.
Right. And there's a great opportunity for this upcoming April 1st election to do a lot of pushback. Dan and Amy, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk a little bit specifically about what has transpired in Wheeling Township over the past 2.5 years that's brought us to the point where we've got a slate of progressive Democrats threatening the Republican incumbent. Is that okay?
Yeah, go.
Yeah. And then I have a question for you.
So about 2.5 years ago, there was a group of activist progressive Democrats who worked to put a referendum on the ballot to create a mental health board and to create a brand new property tax to fund that mental health board. They were successful in getting the referendum on the ballot, and they were actually successful in getting that referendum passed. However, the language that they used in that referendum was not only deceptive, but it was illegal. And the illegal part was discovered by the township attorney after the election took place. He pointed it out, and it was clear to everyone that the referendum was not enforceable. The part about creating the mental health board was enforceable, but the part about creating this new property tax was not. The Wheeling Township Board, led by the supervisor, Kathy Penner, did agree to put the referendum with the correct language back on the ballot. They did that just to be fair, and they thought if, they wanted to let the voters decide what they wanted to do with this, but they wanted to make sure that the voters were fully informed. And what happened was the progressive Dems that got this thing on the ballot, they went to their friends in the legislature, and they asked for a legislative fix, which they got. And the legislature actually passed a law which, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it said that the citizens don't need to be fully informed when voting on tax increase referendums. And it said that this referendum, despite the fact that the language was illegal and deceptive, still counted. And so ever since then, these progressive Democrats have been coming to Wheeling Township meetings, picketing outside before the meetings start, and then flooding the meetings with people making public comment demanding that taxes be increased. During the election, they advertised that the tax increase that was on the ballot was only $1.5 million, but in fact, it was for $8.5 million. It would have been a 270% increase over the current taxes that the township was collecting. Bottom line is, this past December, the township did fund the mental health board. The mental health board did not ask for anything close to $1.5 million. And the incumbents there in the township did the funding without raising taxes. But this very same group of progressive Democrats who pushed for this referendum and pushed for the tax increase are now the ones that are running against our incumbents. And get this, if you look at their website, they say that they're going to increase service from the food pantry. They're going to increase transportation services. They're going to increase funding for mental health care. And they're going to do it without raising taxes. So they've done a complete 180 on where they were standing before for the last 2 years. However, we know that they're lying because for some reason, the woman who is leading their ticket did an interview with the League of Women Voters in which she said if she was elected, she would raise the levy to fund the mental health board even more.
Right. A bunch of liars. Well, do you think Dan Patlak, that the left is getting a little jumpy? I'm friends with Michelle Hunter, and she ran against Beth Canty for the 54th state rep district seat. She lost. But now she's running for village trustee of Arlington Heights, and her campaign got sued for city ordinance violations relating back to when she ran her rep race. And then the Daily Herald blew up the story. And then on March 4th, they proved, the village investigation proved that she did not violate local campaign finance rules.
Right.
So, I mean,
Amy,
she's running for village
right.
trustee of Arlington Heights, and they're going after her with full force.
Yeah. Michelle is a wonderful person, and she's a wonderful candidate. I hope she gets elected because I know that she'll be a credit to the people in Arlington Heights. But, yes, those charges were completely without merit. They didn't even deserve coverage in the Daily Herald, and yet they got a fairly large story. I will give the Herald some credit, though. When it was shown that the charges were without merit, they did run a story about that as well. But I'm definitely keeping my fingers crossed for Michelle Hunter, and if any of your listeners live in Arlington Heights, I strongly suggest that you cast a vote for Michelle, along with the 7 Republicans running for township office.
And so Wheeling Township, I mean, it's first or second most populous township in suburban Cook County with Thornton. It's like about the same population. But anyway, so it's certainly the largest township where you have Republican office holders at the township level, because you don't have them in Thornton. And, you know, so, I mean, it's just this is the opportunity. And you see what the left does, as you were just describing, with this all this misbehavior with respect to the ballot initiative that was passed, and the Supreme Court makes something legal after the fact, which in itself is illegal, but obviously that needs to be litigated and enforced by a court, and so you need an organization to do that. You need resources. You need the public to be engaged on this. So I just can't emphasize enough. We've seen what's happened in DuPage County when you let the Jacobins in because Republicans are laying down, and then there's the hue and cry when Henry Hyde's name is taken off a building, and when they're going to redo the Heritage Hall at the county building, and all of the other things they do to erase history and advance their particular ideological dispositions and in policy form. And so the emphasis on turning out, because obviously you guys know who voted in 16 and 20 and 24 and maybe in Republican primaries, at least in the presidential, and then who don't have any boxes checked when it comes to municipal elections. So it really is incumbent to do this on a peer-to-peer basis, in addition to what you guys do with the campaign. What is the message, though, for Wheeling Township, the Wheeling Township Republican slate, as it pertains to, educating the public about the job they've done and the threat that this other slate you described poses?
Well, the bottom line is the Republican slate, they're holding the line on property taxes. And the Democrat slate have basically promised for the last 2.5 years that they will raise property taxes. And I think there's no doubt about that. Two other things I want to mention to you I forgot earlier. I told you that the township board did vote to put that referendum back on the ballot. But you should know that as part of their so-called fix, the legislature actually made it illegal for the township board to put that referendum on the ballot for 3 elections following the time that they actually passed putting the referendum back on the ballot. Also, Dan and Amy, something that I think you may not know and has gotten almost no play in the media, this past June, Governor Pritzker signed legislation that removed property tax caps from mental health boards. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that, but I'm unsurprised. And this is the thing too. It's like mental health board. Oh, it sounds nice. So let's remove any indication of what it would cost. Let's backdoor open-ended taxing power. But mental health board, and everybody says, oh, that's a great idea. Is that something that should be done at the township level? Is that redundant? No, it shouldn't be done. Yes, it is redundant. These are not experts. This is just more another fiefdom for political appointees, and now taxing power. And as you just mentioned, uncapped taxing power. I mean, it's such a scam in a state that already has the most units of government of any state in the nation, which we prattle on about all the time, and how's that serving us? So, I mean, it's just, I don't know what it takes to motivate people to just show up or vote early in these races, but I hope the Wheeling Township imbroglio just on this one aspect gives you an insight into what the real choice is there. And this is going on all over the suburbs, and to not participate is to aid and abet these tax eaters that Patlak is describing. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
It's a straight line. Either you're for higher property taxes and poor government, or you're for keeping control of your property taxes and having responsible government. And I can tell you right now, the people who are in government controlling Wheeling Township right now are some of the brightest and best people we have with a high character, and they are conservatives who are very careful with the taxpayer's dollar. If you vote for the other team, you're going to get really bad government, and that's the bottom line. The most important message I have for your listeners, because I know that they're almost all, maybe all, Republicans, conservatives.
Not all.
You've got to come out and vote. You've got to come out and vote, and vote for these conservatives that are on the ballot, including, by the way, as you said earlier, for Keith Pekow down in Orland Township, who was one of our bright, shining Republican stars.
Yeah, or the Village of Orland Park, of course, because he's the mayor. But yeah, and I can vouch for Kathy Penner, who's the supervisor in Wheeling Township, and she's supportive of quality K through 12. I mean, just in terms of a person, forget her position. She'd be like Willow's Academy, who's a friend of our show and stuff. I mean, she's great. And so, we need better candidates. We need better leadership. Well, you have them right now in Wheeling Township. So support them, get out and vote. That's the least you can do, because if you don't, you're supporting the new Marxist Party. So is that how you want to be recorded as having participated? I don't think so. Dan Patlak, former Cook County Board of Review Commissioner, Wheeling Township Republican Committeeman. Dan, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Amy and Dan. Appreciate being on your show.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
The fight against abortion in Illinois has never been more important than it is right now. Thanks to our elected officials, Illinois has become an abortion tourism destination. The number of abortions in our state continues to grow, despite the fact that crisis pregnancy